Hi, everyone. I wanted to do a quick intro for this interview. So, I had the pleasure of interviewing Stephen Bradeen, who is an entrepreneur that runs a bot marketing agency. He's a six-figure entrepreneur. And the reason I decided that I wanted to interview him is because we're both part of the same program. He's been in it for much longer than I have been. But since I've been in this program, which has been a year, I have looked up to him because he's accomplished a level of success that I hope to accomplish by learning about conversational marketing. And in this interview, Stephen talks about the mindset shifts that he's made, both in money mindsets, how he treats his body, how he thinks about himself, and the journey from zero to six figures in revenue, how he got his first three paying clients, and what he would do now if he had to replicate his success within a 3 month period. So I think you're really going to like it and get a lot out of it. Enjoy the interview. Stephen, so I know you're one of the most, you're a bot academy coach and you've been very, very successful in building a bot business. And I see your comments all the time and I've been pestering you as well. And I think everyone appreciates you in the group and your
Thank you.
contribution.
That's super nice.
So can you talk a little bit about that mindset that you now have? Like everything you were saying even before the call, like now you decide how much energy you put into it, you're building other things. And to me, that's one of the coolest things about that's why I want to be an entrepreneur, right? So that I can have these level of possibilities.
Yeah. Mhm. The mindset is like where you put in most of the work, right? Because like at the end of the day, like money to me is more like energy, like it transfers hands all day, and it's all about adding value to someone else and solving the problem. So the best entrepreneurs find the biggest problems to solve and have the most impact and provide the most value for other people, and then they get rewarded with that, with money for that experience. Um, so, I mean, where I got started with the mindset work, like I do a lot of it, right? Like I did the Landmark Forum. That was the first big thing that kind of opened up my world and my mind to the possibilities that I can do this, right? Because I had a mentor named Andy Drish who put it really well. Um, it's like you're walking down between these two lines, and imagine you're walking from here to here and you have a rubber band around your waist and it's tied to this pole, and the closer you get to this goal, the more mindset is going to try to pull you back, right? Pull you back until one day you just cut that rubber band, but to get there you have to stretch it, and then you're going to get pulled back, and you got to stretch it further and you got to get pulled back. So it's all about getting outside that comfort zone, stretching that rubber band, it being your mind, and exploring those new opportunities, and seeking answers through taking action and finding the answers through experience, instead of just like endless study or endless like content and endless courses and learning like school. You know what I mean? Like that,
Mhm.
there's not way less value in that than there is like taking a concentrated program, taking action in the real world, getting that experience, the networking and all that, and then seeing what you see in terms of the patterns and trends and like next steps.
So can
I'm
you talk
pretty
a little
tired today, so I don't know if any of that's
bit?
making any sense. So
No,
you
no,
tell
that
me.
made a lot of sense. That made a lot of sense, and I was curious. Maybe we can bring it into a more concrete way with the
Sure.
stories of like how you got your first three paying clients.
Okay.
So you were talking about taking action. Kind of, you could play that movie for us of how that happened for you.
Absolutely. So after I did some of that mindset work, I mean, I still do, right? Because you're really changing your own identity and how you see yourself and how others see you, which is hard, right? Because your whole network wants to see you the same way. Um,
How do you see
so
yourself now? What is it that mindset that you currently have?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm like, that's a really hard question off the hop of the riff off that. Who are you? Who are you? I mean, who I am is I'm the person behind the consciousness of this human who notices things. Okay, that's who I am, and so I'm noticing all the experiences I'm having, and then I'm taking tons of action toward it. To be entrepreneurial, to solve problems and have impacts, right? And like having those is kind of my purpose. So in the ways I see fit, right? Like I know for me, I saw so many unhappy people in film, and I was also very unhappy working in film. I have definitely some deep desires to help people get started as entrepreneurs one day, be kind of like an angel investor, right? So like that vision, I'm not there yet. So that vision drives me forward, you know, to do more and take more action and try new things, new businesses, um, and scale up to the point where I can take those actions and have that impact on others. Yeah, yeah.
Cool. But sorry, I interrupted you. You were about to tell us how you got those
Oh
three
yeah,
clients.
okay. Um, so firstly, when I was doing I basically out after I did that landmark course, I was more open to the possibility, and it's amazing after you open your mindset to that possibility and you start being receptive to it, how it just lands in your lap. So I ended up, through my friend Sonny, meeting a guy named Dane Maxwell, and I did his course called The Foundation, and that was like a 6-month training where I quit film. I just lived off my credit card, taking this course and trying to learn and take action. And because I was so committed, I'm like, I'm never doing this again. This is it. I'm doing this course. I'm going to be an entrepreneur after. And the course is to start a software company, right? So throughout that course, I learned a ton of skills like copywriting, sales, having like idea extraction conversations to learn about business problems that I could potentially solve, um, prospecting, networking, all these different skills, right? I didn't end up starting a software company. It was a lot. That's a big business for where I was at in my mindset at that time. But Andrew Warner was one of the coaches. So serendipitously, he ends up talking about chat because he just invested in ManyChat at the time. He just started the Bot Academy, and he was talking to the foundation kids about Bot Academy, right? So I was like, this is it. This is the thing I'm going to do. This seems so much easier. I don't have to do all these different aspects. I don't have to pre-sell and get the funding. I can learn this skill and then sell it as a service. Like, it just seemed simpler, right? So I jumped right in. I was the first person that bought on Andrew's webinar, because
Wow.
it meant that I got to get like a 30-minute or 60-minute call with him for feedback on my work. So I was like, yeah, this is it. I'm buying. And I didn't have the money. I just found it, borrowed, figured it out, spent all I had to do it. And before the course ended, or the like first 5 weeks ended, I had a client, and I got that client I was so scared of sales calls. So I started partnering with people that could do sales calls, and I would just be like on the call as like the person who knew the bots a little bit better to like be backup. Right. Um, so that person and he basically had started a digital agency a little earlier than me. So he
He
had a
was a
couple
friend of yours?
clients.
Or how
Sorry.
did you, was he a friend of yours or how
Yeah,
did
I
you
knew
find
him. I knew him, but we hadn't been in touch for quite a long time. We had just recently reconnected and started a little mastermind group. So he had gotten a couple clients, and I'm like, hey, I have this new service now. I've learned this skill. What we just kind of made the connection, like, hey, let's sell this service, right? And on top of his social media stuff, so it would increase his average order or his value for every client he'd have, right? He'd get paid more. He'd get a percentage of what I'd get paid, and he'd pay me. So then, and I've all of his calls, because he was in sales prior, right? So he would just be selling nonstop and then including me in it, right? That was basically how it
right?
worked. So I still do that kind of thing today, not as deeply as I was integrated with him. And that relationship ended as it was appropriate at a time where I realized that I wasn't scared of sales anymore, and I was actually quite good at it. And it was kind of a little hidden Jedi talent of mine that I didn't know about.
Wow.
So that's when we stopped really working. Um,
Right.
but yeah, that was how I got the first few clients, through him. And because I got the first client, I knocked it out of the park for that client. I got certified by Bot Academy, and then they sent me a bunch of clients. So I worked with like some pretty big brands through Bot Academy. And then I had started getting other partners as well that would add my service to theirs. So they're more full service, they can make more money, and then I could also have a new client. And then it was also easier because they would um, um, go out and do all the sales, and they'd still understand the service. So I would just be getting more and more money from like less people. So I wouldn't have to actually manage the client per se, right? Which is probably the
Mhm.
most time consuming aspect.
Right. Wow. That's smart. So with that first client, for instance, how much did you charge them? How much do you make from that?
By the way, I don't know if we call that smart. We'd call that like how I got around my fear.
Well, yeah. Well, I think it's smart in the sense that you didn't stay paralyzed and were like, well, I'm never going to do anything. I think
Yeah.
ideally, yeah, you deal with your fears and just go for it. But
Yeah.
you got all this momentum because of that.
Exactly. Exactly. It's useful. And now that it's already an established place, like if you're starting now, it's a lot easier to contact an agency and they understand the value. Like if you contact a Facebook ads agency and you're like, hey, here's some things I can do, would love to collaborate with you for your clients. You can still take on that strategy in a bit of a different way. So,
Okay. And for you, when you were starting out, how much were you charging back then?
oh, like $500 a month.
Okay. So you would
Yeah.
build it and then kind of run it. And now, kind of, what's the range of where your services are, just to see kind of that evolution?
Well, it depends. It's a different thing, right? Like I'll still sell $500 a month packages, but I mean they'll come with like $3,000 to $10,000 setups, and I'm not actually doing the bot building. My team is. They're
Mm.
better at it than me. Um, so I do some. I'll do like the editing, the feedback, and my role is more to create the strategy maps, do the sales calls, get the new clients, and bring them in, and then my team does the implementation, right? It's not a matter of like, oh, if I sell a $500 a month package, that means my time is messed up, right? It just means that I have to make sure that it's feasible for my team to take action on that type of project, right? Which means the scope of service is typically largely automated. Um, in those cases, right?
Right, right, right. So you just brought up something really, really great. I think this big transition from you as the sole executioner to you as kind of
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
running this team. Can you tell us a little bit about how? I'm sure it was not just one moment, but many moments. But kind of that transition. Was it that you were swamped with clients, or what happened that kind of then said, okay, I need to start hiring people, building
Yep,
systems out?
that's exactly right. My time was maxed out at like 7K a month. Um, so that means I couldn't take on anybody else without help. So I at least just started to stop do setups. So every time I got a setup, and let's say I charged 5K, I'd find a really good builder who would do it for 1K or less, and then I would do and take whatever they did. So I'd do this. So I'd say, hey, this is due in 1 week, 7 days, and then I tell the client 10 to 14 days, and then when they're done, I look at it. I'd provide the builder with any feedback or direction. Then the next 3 days to 7 days are them fixing it to what I want. And in the final little bit, I'd tweak the copy, I'd tweak this and that. I just like elevate it myself instead of doing all the groundworks and the framework of it. And so it just started like that, where I would do like pieces instead of the whole chunk, and I would buy some of those hours back.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's okay. And then now are these people part of your staff, or how has that evolved?
Um, well, some of those people went on to just grow their business to the point where they were in that role, right?
Mhm.
And now I started ChatBlender with Nick, Julia, and Andrew. So we uh, we basically created a little team with some of the best builders in the world, and uh, manage projects a little differently through there. So now I'm a client of my own business, ChatBlender. So when I have a new consulting project that requires chat marketing through on-spot automations, I'm a client of ChatBlender, and so I submit all my projects through that service, right?
Okay, so with ChatBlender, it's I've seen some of the packages. I think they start at like 400 a month or something.
Yeah, exactly. So like if I sell like 5 projects in April, I put 5 projects through ChatBlender. I think that was probably, and again, I don't put all my projects through ChatBlender, but like for the 5 I did, that I think they were all e-commerce stores. It was probably over 10K in income for $400 retainer with ChatBlender. So the system is so tight in there that they're able to produce that high quality work for those types of prices. So that's pretty proud of it, honestly, because it's also something that doesn't necessarily, we have such a kick-ass team that it doesn't require Nick or I to be in there every single day. We are able to look at the business from a strategic place and like as a system. So um, as problems come up, we can find creative ways to solve them and tests and split tests so that we can improve and scale and keep our team happy, hopefully.
Yeah. Tell me, how did the idea of ChatBlender come up? So you were doing your own like chat building your agency,
Mhm.
and
That's a
then when
great
did this
question.
other thing come up?
Well, there's this huge problem in agencies, right? And we see it like every single day in Bot Academy, where when people are getting started, they have this boom or bust cycle, right? They'll make a bunch of sales, but then the next month is all them fulfilling on the work. And then they get back to sales and then they have to fill on all the work, right? So you can't run like that. So Chatblender was designed to solve that problem so people can scale their agencies by focusing on driving the business forward and being the entrepreneur. Well, they have this kick-ass implementation team that they don't have to train, that is going to know more about it than they do and can just implement for them, right? So it becomes feasible because Chatblender isn't in the weeds managing 100 clients, right? Like if an agency signs on, that agency talks to us and manages all their projects through us. So we're not like necessarily always reaching out to them for this and that. Every time they need something done, they just let us know, right? So that
Mhm.
makes it a lot more feasible because we're not accountable to like keep tabs on everything, right? That's their job. We're accountable for implementing anything they ask at a really good pace and a really good high quality amount of work, right? And that solves the boom or bust cycle better than anything else.
I see. And what's your role there? I know there's the three of you. Are you managing it? Who manages it? How does
Well,
that work?
Andrew's not really involved anymore. He's been doing his own thing, but with Nick and I, we're basically managing it together. So Nick works at Chat Fuel,
Mhm.
um, and obviously I'm affiliated strongly with ManyChat. So together we kind of have like a lot of the different mindsets. Um, we have different skill sets rather, which is pretty cool. So yeah, we both just have our role there.
Okay, got it. So you kind of just manage the team, hire the right people, train the right people, and kind of they run the day to day kind of thing.
Yeah, so we have an account manager, right? And there's a portal. So like the business person or the business or the other agency logs into their portal and submits their project, and then our account manager responds and gets any additional details or assets from them, and then she assigns it to one of the builders,
Got it.
and then the builder just goes in, gets it all done, and then the account manager takes it from there.
Okay. Wow. Look at you. You wanted to start one business and now you're doing three or more.
Yeah, three. Yeah.
So, so let's say if you were to start all over again, um, what would you do to get to where you are, to your current revenue?
Oh
Let's
man,
talk about just within, let's say, 3 months or
such a
three
good.
to 6 months, even.
It's like an amazing question. So I know nothing then. I know
No,
nothing.
you've taken the course, you've taken Bot Academy. That's happened.
Yeah.
No, you could, knowing what you know now, like if you were going to do it again, but like the business is taken away, but you still have all the same knowledge.
Okay.
Um,
Do I have the same network too?
hmm. Let's assume you don't, because I guess most people wouldn't.
Okay, so if I have all the same knowledge, then I'd probably set up like an outreach system to agencies that aren't doing chat marketing, and I would hire a VA, and I would just email them all day and try to reach out to them on Facebook. I'd also spend some time helping and giving people value in groups by just showing them cool things that they could be doing. And I would do that until I had enough partners that were sending me projects that I could afford to hire more help and create my own sales system. Um, does that make sense?
It does make sense. So, do you mind if I ask you a few follow-up questions on that?
Please. I'm not feeling I'm being super clear today. So yeah.
No, no, no. So, okay, agency. So you still, even though you said earlier that you didn't think it was smart, you still would choose this one system to get
Oh,
clients.
well, I don't think I said I didn't think it was smart. I just said that like it's not aligned for my personal goals anymore.
Ah, there you go.
So it's still smart. Like it is for me the fastest way to six figures from nothing. That's what I think it is. Like
Okay.
to get into services and in terms of wanting to be an entrepreneur, right? Because there's no capital investment. All you have to do is create a website and take one course to learn the skill set, and then you can start like building demos and that type of thing.
So with agencies, how would you, so you want to get kind of a partnership so that if they have kind of a chat need, they'll come to you. How do you how would you approach them? What would you say? Again, in a cold outreach, or would you kind of like build a little bit of a relationship on Facebook?
Okay. Well, I would pick a market, right? So let's say it's e-commerce. I do a ton of research on like the pain points in e-commerce. Um, and then I would try to learn the language and how they speak and see if I could maybe interview some or just get on some for to ask questions, see if there are any business owners in my network who I could talk to and just kind of learn their pain points and how they describe them. And then I would, so basically you're finding problems, right? And then I'd take a problem I know I can solve and um, I'd find someone to go on a trial with me, a paid trial to implement for them. And then I would take those results and turn them into a case study. And then I would basically, all my outreach emails would be about how that case study worked. And then I would send that case study around.
There you go. So this might be kind of me being really goofy in the questions, but when you say, what's an example of a problem that you would have solved or that you're currently solving?
Sure.
And then you would then pitch in the form of a case study.
Sure, sure. So, one obvious one is like cart abandonment in e-commerce. So people add things to their cart, they second guess it, they get busy, they just don't happen to take action. A lot of times, a simple nudge gets them to purchase. So a cart abandonment chat experience that messages anyone who has left abandoned their cart with what the product is and a small discount to nudge them over the edge to buy. That can double their conversion rate and be a super profitable system for the business, right?
Okay, so that would be one thing. And then why would you get a VA to email the agencies just so that you're not spending all that time doing it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then tell me
You can reply, but you don't want to be the one like managing all that, like, because you also have to source their emails ethically, right? Um,
right.
and that's a whole part of it, and the thing is like I recommend that, but I also recommended adding value in groups,
Yes.
because like my sales partners that I described earlier, like they'd be the ones who'd be doing those email systems. I would just go help people in groups, because I found that when you're helping people, others would see those comments and reach out to you. And you can also reach out to people looking for help, and just by helping, I'd end up with some clients that way. It's anything you can really do to get that case study, because once you get your case study and you can prove it, you're much more credible and you can create trust a lot quicker. And yeah, it's just a lot easier in your outreach.
So what's an example of, for example, groups that you're a part of or that you used in the past to get clients? And
Yeah,
the only
so
reason I ask is I don't mean to be annoying, but I feel like as somebody who's starting out, I'm like, okay, add value groups, like what exactly, when, where, you know what I'm saying?
sure,
So
yeah. Good question. So Facebook ad groups is an easy one. Look for posts around conversion or needing to convert more.
okay.
E-commerce stores are great. Coaches are great. Auto dealers are great. So they'll say, hey, I'm looking to convert more of XYZ, or follow up or this type of thing. So I just search for problems that I know I can solve really well, and then I just like go like give them a great answer with like all the details, holding nothing back. And what happens is they still can't do it themselves, and then they'll hire you to help them.
There you go. Okay. I'm gonna try this and then I'm probably gonna ping you, be like, Stephen, this is happening. Um,
Well, it even
it,
happens like a year later. Like I've had people see posts a year old, and like I'm like, what the hell? I don't even know what
and
you're
they're still
talking
there.
about. Yeah,
Wow. Okay. So in the past, what has it been? 4 years that you've been running a business?
yeah, maybe 3 or 4. Yeah.
3 or 4? What have been like the biggest, the 2 or 3 biggest things that you've learned about building a business that you wouldn't, there's no way you would have known this until you had your business at this level?
Well, I don't know if you wouldn't know this, but I was never connected to like how you're running a system and you're not like the difference between being a technician. There's a great book on this, E-Myth Revisited. So it's basically just the difference between being a technician, like a bot builder, and then or being like the strategist, and like running a system. So having a sales team member, having an implementer for your service, having an account manager, like moving pieces of a system, but without actually having to do all those things yourself. That's what being an entrepreneur is to me. And it's like the most important mindset for owning a business is seeing it in a big picture and driving it forward as a system instead of being so in the weeds trying to figure out the details. Um,
Was there a moment in your business where that kind of really hit you? You're like, oof, I'm doing this wrong, or I really need to think of it in a different way.
yeah, probably when I maxed out my hours as a technician. Um, because I was like, how do people do this and make $100,000 a month? Like it'd be impossible. Um, and so you start to read more books, you get coaches, you know, someone probably just told me, it might've been Mary Catherine. I don't know. I remember having one call with her when she was just like, chatbot mom's gonna slap you. And she's basically just like explaining, you know, how I can't be so in the weeds forever. I'm never going to grow. And then I went to Conversations Conference, and Jason Swank is on stage, and we got to meet him and everything. And he's telling us about how he's sales assist, he's marketing assist, like he's not those departments, and
Uh,
and how he would. And that's when I split up with the business partner as well, because I was listening to him, and I'm like, oh, he had a business partner where they were too similar in a lot of ways, and it never worked, and they couldn't get anywhere, and he ended up buying him out, right? So yeah, I just got coached. I got help. You know, you need help. Like I needed help. Like that was part of the mindset stuff too. I would never accept help. I wanted to figure everything out on my own and be the smartest guy. But like that's bullshit. You need to like that's just ego bullshit, right? So you need to remove that part and then just go get help. And then once you get the help, you can see things differently. So that was a long way to get there, I think. But yeah.
yeah. No, thank you. Well, I kind of want to ask you some of the Tim Ferriss questions that we had talked about because we're
Sure.
both fans of his work. What is the book you've given most as a gift and why? Or the books that have influenced your life the most?
Yeah, for sure. That's a good one. Easy answer. Untethered Soul. So, and Fender Experiment, they're written by Michael Singer. Um, they're fantastic. They help you cure your mindset of the noisy neighbor, your negative self-talk, and just help you identify the emotional triggers that keep you small or keep you from experiencing clarity.
Mm,
um, you know, the book basically just describes like what we do in our minds to keep ourselves safe psychologically in a lot of ways. So you kind of learn some strategies for breaking through those barriers. And then the surrender experiment is his journey. So Michael Singer's journey to like following the flow of life more instead of, you know, being trapped in a career you hate and these types of things. So he literally lived his whole life by just saying yes to like aligned opportunities that would come up, whether he knew how to do things or not. It's a wonderful read. I'm not doing it justice, but you know, by reading his journey, you can see how you can start to embody that yourself, and then you're better able to decide. You basically can make better decisions because you have more clarity in your life. That's kind of the bottom line.
I'm
It's
gonna
hard.
read.
It's hard to really relate that to people because it's like, what is it like to make better decisions? Fuck if I know, right? Like, you don't like. How do you know a decision is better, right? Um, but you don't know unless you start making better decisions, I guess, and then you start to backwards rationalize how it helped. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I'm gonna let you know what my notes are once I read it. And I'm literally just copying Tim Ferriss's questions.
Yeah.
So, how has a failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure of
Yeah,
yours?
probably. Well, the first business I ever started was a business in film, and it was before I did
Oh,
any courses at all. And this was just because I read a Tim Ferriss book and I wanted to like solve. And then so I read that Tim Ferriss book, 4 Hour Work Week in university, and like I was always thinking about this. And then while we were working in film, I always was listening to podcasts or audiobooks. I was just desperate to leave, right? Um, and one of the podcasts was Smart Passive Income, and that's when Dane Maxwell came on. And Dane Maxwell said, you know, you need to the way you start a business is by solving a problem. And I'm like, holy shit, film has a million problems I could solve. So I tried to solve the problem of hiring background extras on film sets. It was like a really awful, convoluted process. So we designed a software to automatically book extras for film shoots for casting directors. The problem is that I got everything wrong with the market. There was only 10 casting directors for background in Toronto. There are totally different rules in every country. Like the market is tiny for these people that would use your service.
Mm.
The pricing was based on volume, so it could have still worked, but it means I would have had to sell all the casting directors to use me, and then I'm competing with other background casting agents who are already like paying them off and have all these underhanded deals and shit. So I wasn't aware of all that aspect until I got into it, right? Um, so that ended up just being a flop. I also funded it with my own money, and it wasn't that much money. It cost me like $6,000, right? Um, but we probably only made $1,000 back in the end, and then we just dropped the whole thing. And then as soon as I got into the foundation, I was like, "Oh fuck! I did this," and I was like, "Holy shit!" You know, I wish I had that back, but I never would have done it if I knew, right?
Yeah. And how did it set you up for success? Was it like, did you understand like, okay, a problem, a market?
Yeah, basically, like I was able to see the big picture a lot more of like what a greenlit market might look like, and you know, every single failure has a lot of hidden values. This isn't something I've thought about in a while, but
No, that's great. I had no idea. I just knew you had worked in film. I didn't know you had actually started a business in film.
I tried.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could really even say I started it. I made money, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you could have, and I love this one, a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, um, getting a message out to billions, what would it say and why? A few words or a paragraph. It could also be someone else's quote.
Yeah. Um, my favorite quote of all time in entrepreneurship is what Dane Maxwell said. I don't know if he got this from someone or not, but he says action is the answer, honesty is the way. So even on like calls, he would say, "Oh, I'm actually haven't done many of these, so I'm pretty nervous. Sorry if I sound nervous." So he would point out the things that he was most afraid of revealing. And the minute he did that, and I experienced this too, the minute you do that, you realize that you actually create space and openness for your person on the other end of the line to be more honest with you as well. So it has a pretty wonderful impact on the call doing that. So you end up finding like deeper connections, and you also learn like every time you have a question, like the answer is to take action right away, and you'll know, right? Um, so that's pretty abstract, but like you can apply that to almost anything.
So, in these calls, were these coaching calls or sales calls or what
Yeah,
kind of
like
like?
with when you're trying to grow your business, like the idea is to do like idea extraction calls, right? So you're looking for problems. That's what we were doing at the time. So you're missing that context completely. But yeah, in the course we're trying to find a problem we can solve with software, right? And you know, taking action, and basically we would try to like research a problem. Everybody would want to research the problem without talking to people, but without talking to people, you don't get to feel how bad a problem is, right? You don't get to feel like, oh, how late were you up last night dealing with this, these types of questions, and you don't get that like abundance and connection. And what I learned through that process is like that abundance mindset and the connection with the person you're speaking with is how you create wealth to get started, right? Because you need to create that network. You need to like connect with others and offer value to them and have impact with them. So I'd say that saying, like taking action, it gets you out of the delay and the analysis paralysis, right? You're just like, okay, what's the thing I can do right now to find out? Boom. And then the honesty part is to like realize that everybody's the same. We all have these types of fears, and the more you can reveal, the less afraid you are and the more connected you are to them. um, and that's where I see that applying in more than just this one isolated context of idea extraction. It's more like anything. You anytime you have a problem you need to solve, like how can you test and take action now, and how can you be honest to create more abundance and connection with others.
I love that. What was that phrase? Like, hey, I'm nervous. I've never done this, but
Well,
here's
it's not, it's just like an example, right? It's
yeah.
like if I'm on the call, I'm like, hey, sorry if I sound a little nervous. I'm actually just really excited about this. I just wanted to share that with you. And even if you don't even have to apologize for it, just saying, oh yeah, I'm just getting started with this. So, thank you for taking the time. I'm a bit nervous. And they're gonna be like, oh, no worries. It's all good. And then you kind of go into it. It's like, okay, now you set the frame, and then you kind of learn that, get comfortable with that process as well, right?
Yeah, thank you for that. I love that. I actually, action is the answer. Honesty is the way. Like
Yeah.
it's deep. It's
High
deep.
integrity.
So, what is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made? Could be an investment of money, time, energy.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes up is the Landmark Forum, because that really started my whole journey and getting me out of my own way. Um, and that's just like a 3-day seminar for like 650 Canadian dollars, depending on where you are. Um,
I'm
so,
gonna do that
oh
once this
yeah,
whole COVID thing is gone.
yeah. If you're listening, Google Landmark Forum. It's essentially a personal development seminar. Um, Fantastic. It helps you get closer with your family. Like at this point, my whole family's done it. All my friends have done it. I've had friends of mine say it saved their marriage. I've had friends of mine say that you know, like for me, it's the reason I'm an entrepreneur. It got me out of my own way. I love that, of course. So, but whatever you want in life, it helps you get closer to it. So definitely might be the best investment because it could
Awesome.
be a lot. Most people who have that knowledge are going to charge you like $10,000 or more, right? This is a $650 course. It's very amazing. Yeah.
I love that mindset because some people might be like $650. What? But I love how you frame it. Like other people would charge you this much. So
Oh yeah, I know someone who, like, one of my closest friends took on a coach for $40,000 for like a year of coaching, right? And like, I bet, I bet he would say he got more out of the Landmark Forum in 3 days.
wow. So there you go. We all got to do that. Stephen, what is an unusual habit or an absurd thing that you love?
I saw that question. I don't know.
Like, for instance, Tim Ferriss has this example of one of his guests who, whenever she's eating a sandwich, she will open it and rearrange the tomatoes so that every single bite is even.
Oh, cool.
So this doesn't have to be business related. It's just to get to know your personality.
I hear you. I don't know. Do I have a weird thing like that? I can't watch. I have to watch shows in order. I have to. I can't watch them out of order. I don't know if that's even that weird, but like if I'm watching, if someone's like, "Oh, I love this show, Game of Thrones," I can't start at the seventh season. I have to start at the beginning, or I won't watch it at all. But that's probably pretty common.
No, I'm exactly the same way.
Yeah, yeah.
Even
That's
sometimes with Grey's Anatomy, I don't remember what episode I left it on.
yeah,
And I can't come back because I don't know which one I'm supposed to be on. And I'm not going to watch the most recent one because I don't want to miss
yeah,
out. So,
yeah. Exactly.
what shows are you watching right now?
What shows? I just finished Ozark. That was
What's that
good.
about? I haven't seen
Ozark
it.
is, Jason Bateman. He's pretty famous. He basically is a money launderer for a drug cartel,
Oh,
um, and yeah, it's pretty good. But the thing I'm most obsessed with right now, and if you've never gotten Masterclass, like the actual program, I bought Masterclass last year on Black Friday. They had some great deal, and I was like, okay, I would check out. Like, I'm a basketball player. I've played high level basketball, and I love. So I wanted to watch the Steph Curry Masterclass, right? But that turned into this wonderful thing because then I ended up watching the Gordon Ramsay Masterclass, and like I've never been much of a cook. Like I'm good with the barbecue, but I've never been much of a cook, and I'm obsessed with cooking now. Like I am watching Master Chef like for hours, like obsessed. Like I don't know where this is gonna go, but like I'm missing one ingredient. I'm about to make like a panko basil crusted rack of lamb, and like on the iron skillet or iron pan or whatever it is. So excited to do that.
wow. And all from watching this one course. That's surprising because I
Uh,
thought he would have been like this super complicated thing. But now look at you.
well, it's cooking, man. Cooking can be complicated. It's such a cool challenge. You're like putting together this puzzle. Um, and I never really liked cooking. I never really paid attention to it. Like when the COVID hit, uh, I realized I was spending like $1,500 a month on Uber Eats because I would just never cook. And now that we don't aren't super comfortable ordering in food all the time like that, we're cooking almost every meal except for one restaurant we're huge fans of. And so I'm saving like $1,500 a month on food, and I'm cooking almost every meal with my fiance. Um,
Wow.
and she's already a really good cook, so she would naturally be cooking a lot more. Um, but now I'm doing it too, and so yeah, it's the most fun, fulfilling thing. I'm watching MasterChef, being like, wow, I want to just one day. How
You're
wouldn't
gonna
that be
be just
fun?
like
Who
that.
knows? I don't know. I'm really into it. Let's see how far I take it. But it's just one of those little passion things I've discovered. And my friends are laughing at me because they know I don't cook. So I cook. It's just super fun. I don't know how we got onto this at all at this point, but
No,
it's
just the weird or absurd things. I like
yeah,
this.
yeah, right, yeah. So it's pretty random, but I'm like watching season 1 of MasterChef now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe I should watch it because I'm like you. I hate cooking. Now I've had to cook because of everything that's going on. But I've always been kind of like,
Oh, there's a master class on cooking, Mexican cooking, and you're in Mexico, so I'm sure you'd have like the best ingredients there. So you could watch that master class and then go get the best ingredients in the world and then do something amazing with it.
I just have a great meal.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's fulfilling. I'm telling you. Like once you like,
Okay,
yeah, because I had no concept of like ingredients.
that's
It's
me.
I love Mary Catherine recently on a webinar made a reference to to her running a business or an agency like being a chef, and that's so true. You as a chef, you're the strategist. Chat marketing or ManyChat, that's just a tool. That's just like the pan or a pot, right? That's not what you do. What you do is you're the strategist who in any market can create a bunch of ingredients and use tools at their disposal to create something beautifully tasting and wonderfully elevated in its style and that kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check it out and see. Hopefully, I'll have a transformation like yours as well. Other than cooking, in the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
Um, hmm, Probably meditation would be part of it. Um, Try to do that from time to time, or when I'm on a streak, it makes a big difference. I think it's really undersaid how important clarity is in business. You need to make good decisions. If you're feeling like rushed and panicked and having like an emotional reaction to every opportunity, like you're going to stay small, right? Like you need to be able to use emotion as an ally. So I think meditation really helps you keep a clear mind and just help you see sticking points and impediments in your life that you otherwise wouldn't really be conscious to or present to unless you were really kind of trying to look for it. So a few minutes a day, that is a big deal. I also did the 5-minute journal for a while. Um, that really baked in that gratitude piece. So you really can feel like the chemical balance of your brain changing over time with this stuff. Like I would often be, you know, a bit more rash or emotional or like off the cuff, wear your heart on the sleeve type of thing. And like I still have the kind of a lot of those elements, but it's just different. Like I've been able to change it so it's more empowered, I guess. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I love that. I actually use the 5 minute journal as well. It's been
Yeah, yeah,
life changing.
yeah.
What advice would you, and we're like 4 more questions and we'll be done, but what advice would you give to a smart, driven college student about to enter the real world? And what advice should
I'd
they
I'd ask why they're in college and if they're paying for it themselves.
know? they, they shouldn't be.
I don't know. Some people should be. I shouldn't have gone.
What did you major in?
Well, I left a few credits shy of my major when I realized it was a total waste of time for me. But I was in psychology.
Okay, so you're
Yeah.
like, ask
I
yourself
didn't.
what you really want to do.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, look, I think the only real use case left for school, I mean, especially like before university, is like if you're a doctor or a lawyer, if you have that type of ambition to do that. Um, but otherwise, like you're not learning skills that are actually valuable. In most cases, I think people do it because their parents want them to do it. It was a lot more valuable in that era. Um, but now I did a 6-month course in the Foundation of Bot Academy and created a 6-figure business within a few months, like 6 months. Like I did 15, 16 years of school. I don't know. I didn't really see the value then, like internally. Like I'm like, why am I learning this? Like no one actually could tell you because there's no real reason to learn a lot of those things. Like where's the personal finance? Where's the like potential sales training? Where's like, you know, mental health training, like where are the activities that actually move the dial in your life? They're not there, so my question would be, why are you in school? Is there like a direct correlation between what you're studying and how you're going to earn in the future? Because if there isn't, and you're more like, oh, I could get a job
Some other
wherever,
way.
then what are you doing with your day,
Okay, I like that. And
Yeah.
what are some bad recommendations you hear in your profession or area of expertise?
um, Bad recommendations, that's kind of broad. Is there any way we
Well,
can
let's
get?
say for bod builders, people who are starting out with Bod
Okay.
Academy. Um, what are some bad recommendations that you hear?
I don't know. I'm not. I see only a lot of good ones. I'm not super connected with people that would give bad ones. Well, okay, actually, one, working on like a website and all your marketing materials before you have a client. Like
Huh.
so many people will like, oh yeah, you need a website, but you don't need a website. I didn't have a website for like 6 months of operation. Um, so the problem with it is you spend like hours trying to perfect this website as if it's going to sell for you. The website doesn't sell for you. You know, it may add some value and help you qualify customers when you have inbound leads and whatnot, and it becomes a really useful tool. But initially, you're trying to get that case study and that value, and you don't might not necessarily know where you're going to end up. You don't know where the momentum is going to take you. So you might start talking to auto dealers, but you might find you're more aligned with e-commerce. Redo your whole site and spend the next 2 weeks doing that when you're not a website builder. It's just it slows you down. So I think people can be taking action and learning the service and getting a client, and then once they have kind of more of a productized service or a clear offer, then go turn that into a website.
Okay, love it. In the last 5 years, what have you become better at saying no to, whether it's distractions, invitations, etc., or what new realizations and approaches have helped you?
That's a great one. Junk food. Saying no to junk food. um, yeah, eating better. Gotten a lot better at that.
How
Saying
does
no to
that
bad
happen?
food.
Like, nope, I'm not gonna eat this.
Yeah. Just stop. Just like, I forget exactly where at the moment, but yeah, that was just one thing I've gotten a lot better at. I could have a bit of a sweet tooth, and you'd feel like a little bit shitty and not clear. You don't feel as active. So and not like I was ever really out of shape or anything, because I was super interested in the gym forever. But like dropping that and eating cleaner, and then working out even more, has been awesome for sure.
Do you work out regularly, Stephen?
Well, before COVID, I would every day. I do 3 times a week basketball and 4 times a week weights.
Okay, so
Yeah.
really take care of your body there.
Hmm.
Um,
That's so important. I feel like your mind and your body and all that, like that's like, follow Dan Martell. Like that guy has all the inspirational answers. Like he's like one of the people I respect the most in terms of what they've done in business, and like how kind they are. And a guy like who's been that successful, like that's real next level success, right? Like that's rare success. Um,
name?
he's Dan Martell.
Oh,
Uh,
Dan.
Dan
Yep.
Martell, yeah. I had the I was able to meet him in a course at one point, and yeah, he's just such a good guy. And you see, if you follow him on Instagram or Facebook, he works as hard now as ever, even though he's had all the success. Like when I saw him doing like the push-up challenge every single day, and he's already super fit, successful, has a great family, all these different things. I'm like, look at that guy grinding still. Look at how hard that guy works. And something I'm sure he would agree with, or those types of people would, is it's not. And I think I'm saying that because I think it was him who said this that really connected. Was it's not what you have to do to be successful; it's who you have to become.
Mm.
So it's not like about strategies or services or these types of things that most people want to talk about endlessly. It's more about like what your habits are, your routines, how you respect your body and your mind. Um, and that gives you rewards and clarity, and um, yeah, yeah,
That
more
makes so much
consistency.
sense to me. The way
Yeah,
that you take care of your body, the way that you treat yourself, um, and then the rest of the things kind of just you'll learn them. You'll learn the strategies to land clients. But like,
exactly.
who are you
Yeah,
at your core?
yeah,
And I think a lot of people don't talk about that at first because it's kind of maybe the connection isn't as good, kind of like you were saying earlier. I don't know if it was in an earlier call. What's the value of making good decisions? You don't know right away, but it's only when you look back, you're like, damn, my life has really changed.
Totally,
So
totally.
one of those things.
Yeah.
And the final question, I know you talked about, it might be meditation, I'm not sure, but when you feel overwhelmed or unfocused or have lost focus temporarily, what do you do? Or what questions do you ask yourself?
Yeah, good one. Um, that's a skill set. Like that's something I try to improve on all the time, and it's just noticing, right? Like I'll say, why am I having an emotional reaction to that? And I try to like sit outside of the feeling and more like the dissociative state and just look at that, like what triggered me, and you just start to like map out all of your triggers and what created those emotional reactions, good or bad. And you don't, and it's all an untethered soul really, but like you're wanting to avoid clinging to old behaviors and then letting go of like samskaras or trauma that that has affected you. So the way I've found you can do that is by, you take all those lessons, you read those books, and then you start to notice all your triggers a little bit more. You can change them, So like an example, so I had a trigger where I couldn't be told what to do. Like if you were trying to boss me around and tell me what to do, I'd lose my mind, right? Uh, you know what? Actually, there's a better one. There's a way better one that's actually a bit more personal. So forget that one. I used to be convinced I had seasonal affective disorder. So that's when like winter hits and you get super depressed, right? So every winter, I would actually be super sad most of the winter, and every problem that would come up, I would actually make worse. And I'm like, oh, it's winter, and then I would turn it down, go down this whole rabbit hole of sadness, right? And I would be like, oh, how am I going to get out of Canada? How am I going to fix this? I got to move to California, and it's basically just my mind creating problems to solve in these little obstacles. And through going through Landmark, we went through an exercise where we write out our biggest problem and we write it out over and over again. Then we read it over and over again. And I was probably through the third time reading it when I realized I didn't have seasonal affective disorder, and I made it up in my brain. And earlier in life, for whatever reason, and then the next winter, I didn't get sad.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and every winter since has just been easier and easier. Um, Again, I'm finding more gratitude in things I'm able to do in the winter here. And I realized there was nothing to run from. Um, I completely forget what your question was, but I think that
No,
was the
when
answer.
you're feeling unfocused or that you've lost track, like what is it that you do? And
Right. So doing those types of exercises, like writing that out and rereading it, it helps you pinpoint what the problem is in a dissociated state, so you can actually see it instead of being so in it.
yeah,
Mhm.
I like that. So writing down your your biggest problem multiple times,
Yeah,
and
like
then
write it as like a story. Like oh, I woke up today and I was really sad, because it's winter, and this has been a problem for many years, and I've always really wanted to move to California because of it, and this and that, right? And then you kind of reread it and you're like, when did this even happen? Like
what am I even?
I've never been diagnosed. Like what is it? Why is this so real for me? Because like when you see, like, even in politics, you see so many people, like, so, especially right now, like so ingrained in these beliefs, like none of them are real. Like the people who are most successful can drop beliefs that don't serve them, right? So you have to figure out what your beliefs are that hold you back, and then like go and drop them, right? Anything political right now, like, I couldn't imagine a bigger waste of time than reading politics right now. Like, what a distraction. Like, all that is just brainwashing. um, so, like, why do we feel so compelled to read and watch that crap all day? It doesn't impact us, you know?
Yeah,
So why aren't we more focused our energies on the things that are going to move the dial? We got to figure out what are the things that are distracting our minds or occupying our minds all day. What are we thinking about constantly? Make a list of those things, and then just start cutting some of those things out that aren't moving the dial. You know, we
I
can.
love
It's easy.
that.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does because I mean, one example for me is I want to get feedback from. I study acting in the evenings, and not once have I had a one-on-one conversation with my acting instructor to be like, he gives us feedback in a group, but not one-on-one, and I get so afraid. And I know, but here's the thing where I think I'm skipping a step. Writing it out, I'm wondering if for you there's a point where you're like, wait, this is silly. Because I know it's silly, but then I just jump into this is silly. I shouldn't feel that way, but I still
Well,
feel.
don't you, it's because you don't want to criticize the feeling. The feeling's
Mm,
real. Like you feel the feeling. The feeling isn't wrong or right or anything. It's just that you're feeling. So you just need to like take that in and understand where the trigger point was, and like if it's, and like why, right?
mm,
I think it takes some like training and to like understand that, because basically I went through like I said earlier, like a lot of coaching and whatnot over time, and then I you just start to notice more and more, you know,
mm,
what types of things are triggering you. And you know, an example from the book is like if your girlfriend or boyfriend cheated on you in high school, and maybe they drove a blue Toyota, right? And then every time maybe you saw her or him cheating on you in the Toyota, and so every time you see a blue Toyota, you're like hurt. You're like, oh, you look to see if it's them, right? That's called called a samskara, right? And so you'll notice even like 10 years after an event like that, you'll still like be triggered and think about it, right? So you know, you can start to over time discern those events and then let go of them.
huh. I like
So they
that.
don't have that power anymore. Because
Yeah,
most humans are just meaning making machines. They just try to make meaning out of every little thing that happens to them so that it makes sense and they can control it, right? But that's not how life really works, I don't think.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that thing that you said earlier about being able to drop beliefs that don't
Mhm.
serve you.
Yeah, that's huge. That's
Awesome.
huge.
Well, Stephen, thank you. I know we've already gone over time a lot, but I just want to say I really appreciate everything you've shared with us. And I'm left with this sensation of there's so, I feel like there's endless possibilities. And seeing you kind of where you're at and the journeys that you've been through and the little bit that I've been able to understand and glean into your life, it makes me want to say, hey, how do I change my mindset? How do I get myself to that next level? And I think a lot of people within Bot Academy and the bootcamp feel that way. So I just want to say I'm super grateful and appreciative that you've been so open and have shared
Well,
so much with us.
thank you. I mean, that's so sweet. I really appreciate, you know, your interest in these things, you know, like it's really fun to have these conversations, right? Like it's one of my favorite things to do, you know, because it, you know, having these discussions helps me too. It's not like it's just, oh, you know, it helps me get congruent and also reflect like some of these questions I haven't thought about in a while, you know, it helps create that motivational layer and drive you forward, you know, and it's also, you know, there's this great coach named Maston Kipp who I've done some things with in the past, and he says this thing. It's lovely. It's like if you want to be wealthy, solve problems. If you want to be happy, be of service, and if you want love, be love. Right? And so it's kind of like your formula for life, right? So when people want help or things like that, like you need that. You need to be able to help people, like no matter where you are in your development. Like if this is all the people and you know you're like in here with how much you know, no matter where you are, there's this many you can help and this many you can learn from, right?
Yeah.
So there's always people you can help, and that brings you that happiness and that drive to have impact, which then comes in play when you're solving problems, you know. And then the love part is that openness to share, you know. And when you have that openness, it means you're more receptive to receiving it as well from someone else. um, so yeah, I love that. I think it captures like almost everything.
Thank you. I love that. And I have all of these book recommendations that I'll include in the post. And I'm actually gonna order this other one by Michael Singer. What was it called? It's not stealing. It's
No,
Untethered Soul and the second one.
yeah, Surrender Experiment.
Surrender
I
Experiment.
think he only wrote two, but I'll type out the list and send it to you for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.